Guys, London is back in lockdown, or should I say Wokdown. So we've changed our Wok Wednesdays to Wokdown Wednesdays, and I'm back in my home for the first Wokdown Wednesday. I'm going to do a Thai Panang curry. First things first, like any Thai curry, is getting that paste going. And this is a red, or sort of transformed over time into a red Thai curry. I believe the first ever sort of Penang curries were this sort of grilled chicken, I think Penang actually means cross, so it's like cross-legged grilled chicken with this sort of spicy paste. I'm actually going to start with the paste for the curry paste, which is the more modern version of your Thai curry. And so a couple of cloves of garlic. You want to, this ought to be finely chopped up, but I will use the food processor here just to speed it up. So I'm just going to whack those straight into there for once I've got enough in. I'm cooking this for my family, so my little one is only 3. He doesn't take chili yet, which I'm okay with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all the ingredients in apart from these red chilies here. I've got lots of dry red chilies soaking in hot water. I'll leave those out till very last. Take some of the paste out before I add the chilies, just so that I can cook a separate version for little Theo. So, ginger. Usually you'd use galangal for this paste, but I have been trying to be as careful as possible and not going to shops if I can help it at the moment. So I'm just going to use some ginger. Absolutely fine to swap galangal out for your ginger. Might not give you the same sort of citrus flavour as your galangal, but in times like this, desperate times where we're still really trying our hardest to give you some great content and great recipes, I don't mind. Give that a slap and then into the food processor as well. My lemongrass, even if you're going to use a food processor for the sort of stages of the lemongrass or of the paste going in, it's worthwhile giving a good bash first. Get that Wokdown anger out. And then actually finely chopping this before it goes into that blitzer, because it can be quite woody, quite fibrous, and it will just get stuck in the blade. So just help it out. And that can go all into that paste. And even for my 3-year-old, that sort of lemongrass is, it's got that citrus flavour, but it's not too sort of heaty, not too strong and fiery. I've got, again, another swap out where I would usually be using Thai shallots if I could find them, but at the moment that's more difficult for me to get hold of. So I'm just using normal shallots. Onions, red onions, shallots, anything like this will work a treat, so don't worry about that too much. I think these larger Western shallots may be a little bit hotter than your Thai shallots, but it'll be fine. So just rough chop of that because it's going into the food processor, and that will help that out. Yeah, straight in with your shallots. So, as I say, this sort of dish, this Thai Panang curry, would have been a spice dish or spice-based grilled chicken or beef in the very old days, but there's so many different variations of this type of curry. I'm going to put another shallot in. The main thing is that it's got this really deep sort of colour and flavour from that red curry paste, and that's why I've got so many dry red chilies ready to go into this paste. Next up, we've got some lime leaves here. We'll use some of the lime leaves to go into the paste, and then the other sort of finely shredded lime leaves can be used for later on as sort of garnish for the whole meal. And again, I've got coriander leaves here, or any sort of herbs are great for garnishing this type of dish, but if you could get hold of some Thai basil or anything like that, just to add even more sort of punchy flavour, that's great too. So I'm going to use a couple of these, as I say, just leave aside for later on. And we can use there's a couple of whole leaves as well that I might actually put into the curry whilst cooking. Just sort of tighten these leaves up and roll them up nicely like so. And then you can hold on to those and finally chiffonade, what the French call, or finally matchstick your lime leaf. Yeah, a good amount of that lime leaf into there, and then leave that for garnish later on. So lime leaf in, lemongrass, shallots, my garlic and ginger have gone in, much like making a Thai green curry. And this is all about the flavour here. You know, the stalks of your coriander give fantastic flavour. Keep the leaves for later on. Again, into the pestle and mortar or into your food processor. So go straight in large chunks is fine in the food processor. If you're going straight into your pestle and mortar, then finely chop it first. The only other things I'm going to add into are a few spices. I've got some sort of lighter spices, my base spices, almost of Indian and Malaysian cuisine and a lot of different curries like that. Cumin seeds, coriander seeds. I've got some black peppercorns, black, white peppercorns, both work really well. Green, fresh peppercorns even work well too. So pour all those straight into there. Usually you'd put a teaspoon of shrimp paste in. I haven't got any of that in my pantry at the moment. So I'm going to swap that out with what Lee likes to call my current favourite ingredient, which is fried shallots. That'll give a nice deep savoury flavour as well. Similar, but not quite the same to your shrimp paste, but it'll work really nicely. So those are my great ingredients in there that are going to create this really herby, sort of flavourful, zesty paste or base of paste before the chilies. This one is for my son. Now, if you've been watching Wok Wednesdays for a while now, you'll know that that is definitely not pasty or smooth enough for a Thai curry, and that I'm definitely not happy with that yet. But that has helped me speed up this chopping process a little. So I'm going to take a little bit of this out so that I can use it for my little one's cooking first. Just bear with me. He even got one of his little bowls. So let's take a good bit of paste. I will sort of pound that as well before I use it, otherwise he definitely won't eat this dinner. That's as much as I really need for him. So that's aside, and then I'm going to add my dry red chilies into this as well. Again, they can be a little bit waxy with the skin, so just give it a rough chop before you are putting it into your food processor. Leave that water. You can use that liquid to add even more flavour to the stock and the curry when it's cooking. Don't waste it. That chili water will taste really good. Chilies are in. Now, for texture in this paste, there's one more added ingredient that you wouldn't put into sort of a classic green Thai curry, and that's these peanuts here. I've got all that chili's hit me. Woo! Lucky I'm only choking myself up these days. So the peanuts are a great addition to this, and it adds this sort of coarser, sort of nutty flavour, but also coarser texture. I've got salted roasted peanuts because I find it adds even more flavour to that base. So I'm going to blitz that up as well, and then I'm going to start to pestle and mortar. But again, you can see it's still quite coarse in texture there. So I'm going to get this into the pestle and mortar and really pound it into a smooth paste. That was hard work, but well worth it, I hope. And I'll show you the texture of the paste now. And you can see, I'm going to take a spoon out of that. That's pretty much one sort of homogeneous paste. It's got little bits of those dried red chilies in there, but that's okay. I'm fine with that. So that paste is ready to use now. I'm going to keep that aside, my paste nice and ready for later on. I've got actually some baby carrots. Vegetable wise, you can use whatever you want. I've got a couple of potatoes that need using, and they go great in a curry, a curry like this, or, you know, your Thai Panang curries, your Masaman curries, anything like that. So I'm going to chop up my potatoes, not too small, just in sort of quarters. They can go in with my baby carrots. I've just got these they're so cute. Look at these. Great stuff here. Really nice and sweet. I'm going to cook those whole into the curry because I think they'll look nice and pretty that way. And still keep their crunch. My sugar snap peas or sugar snap, I'm going to use later on. Just the last 2 or 3 minutes, throw them into the curry at the end. So that's all the chopping done on the veg side. Then I've got my chicken. And as I said at the beginning, the classic or the old style Panang chicken, Thai Panang chicken, would have been on the bone, sort of leg thigh piece and crisscrossed together, almost half a chicken, and then sort of using the paste to flavour it and some fish sauce and maybe some coconut milk to sort of marinate the chicken, then grilled. This is over time turned into a curry. So in sort of usual curry terms, it would just be either chicken thigh or slices of chicken thigh or chicken breast or beef. I'm going to go halfway between old and new, where I remove the skin from the thigh pieces, and then I'm going to keep it on the bone, but I'm going to chop into the bone in sort of 2 or 3 pieces. So each piece keeps the bone intact inside. I find that taste makes it or keeps the sort of flavour of the chicken within itself. And actually one of my uncles used to do that with his Malaysian curries, and it makes a delicious curry because you get all the flavour from the bone and the marrow in there as well. So cut in, and I'm kind of lifting the chicken up just to help my hands here more than anything. There you go, good chunks of chicken thigh there. Everything's chopped up and ready to go. I've got my numerous cameras in different places. I'm going to show you a few things. Just to show you the setup first. So I've got my paste here, which is gonna we're gonna start the curry off with. So that great spicy paste with all that flavour in there. I've got my chicken that will go into the paste. I've got some coconut milk and some chicken stock, and then my veg to go with that. Don't forget your water from your chili and your garnish, and then on top of that, just some palm sugar and some fish sauce to season your Thai Panang curry at the end. So onto the cooking station. Over here, I'm going to start cooking. Really, really simple. So follow the same principles as cooking any sort of curry base. And so with a little bit of oil in the base, you need enough oil to base the pan so that you can actually really temper those spices well. At this point, it's where I feel like people just don't give their curries enough time, or their spices enough time to cook off and temper and fry. You could be doing this and frying this on a sort of medium heat or medium to low heat for sort of 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes, you know. 8's obviously the lucky number, Chinese tradition. So you want to fry it to a point where you're smelling this great sort of fragrance and aroma, but it doesn't smell raw. So I'm going to get my oil up to a good heat first, and then I'm going to start to fry the paste. So my paste is going to go in, and I'm going to use about sort of what I would say is 3 to 4 heaped tablespoons of the paste to make this curry really tasty. You know, all that flavour is coming from the paste itself. If you don't want it to be too spicy, then perhaps go for 1 to 2 tablespoons of the paste instead. It's quite high at the moment. I'm just going to bring that down to medium heat so it just bubbles away. And as I say, you're going to cook this through until you cook out the rawness. But remember, there's peanuts in there, so you don't want to sort of burn it, but it's okay to get a bit of sticking at the bottom of the pan. So what you want to do, guys, is you want to get it to a point where it really is sticking at the bottom of the pan, but it's not burning. And you can see here that I'll just scrape the bottom so you can see how much sticking I've really got of that paste in that pan. That is a good sign, because when I add my coconut milk, which I'm going to add bit by bit, it's going to gradually deglaze that pan and take all the flavour off the bottom of it. But before then, I'm going to add my chicken. So my chicken is going in next. Oh, try not to throw all the skin in, if you can help it. Ooh. Okay. Bring that up to medium to high heat, and then just wrap all that excess paste around the chicken. Now that chicken doesn't necessarily have to sort of brown. It just needs to be well mixed in with that paste and start to cook through. And at this point, we can start to pour a little bit of that coconut milk into the curry. A little bit at a time, as I say. And that will start to lift off all those amazing flavours off the bottom of the pan. Still on a medium heat here, nothing too high. You can start to scrape a little bit, but don't overdo the scraping, because we are going to add more coconut milk as we go. And then we're going to add a bit more coconut milk again. Again, mix well and scrape. And you can see already that texture of the paste and the oils that are coming out of the paste are starting to split a little, which is great, because you've got that intensity, that intense flavour of the curry forming from this cooking process and this technique. We're going to eventually get all this coconut milk in there. So I'm going to go in 2 more rounds, and by that point I should, in theory, have a nice clean base of the saucepan once all that coconut milk is in. Okay, now I'm going to try and show you this here. I'll switch that off for a second just to show you, but if I scrape that clean underneath, you can see the actual stainless steel pan and how clean that base is now, because all that flavour's been deglazed off the bottom of that pan. That is when it's time to add the rest of your coconut milk. It's all easy from here. Really, really simple. I've got some chicken stock, which I'm going to add just so that I can cook the potatoes through for a bit longer and get some flavour in, and that sort of depth of flavour from the stock, as well as that coconut milk. So that it doesn't need a lot. You're probably looking at a sort of a couple of ladles full of chicken stock to thin it out enough. Bring that to a boil. Don't forget you've got your chili water as well. So if you like that sort of flavour, that sweet flavour, natural sweet flavour of the chilies, then 1 to 1.5 ladlefuls of your chili water works well too. Give that a stir. You can see how much that sort of thinned out my curry, but that will thicken over time. And then your harder vegetables, so that's my carrots and potatoes, can go in to your curry at this point. Give those a mix around. I'll season the curry at the very end. Once the texture of the curry sauce is right and I'm happy with that, then we'll season up your curry. It should only take, you want to bring it to boil at this point, and it should only take about sort of 15 to 20 minutes to start to thicken up. I won't put a lid on it so that it can start to thicken up around the chicken, the potatoes, and those potatoes, the starch from those potatoes will start to sip into the curry and thicken that up as well. Give it 20 minutes and we'll see where it goes from there. So after 20 minutes or so of simmering your curry at a medium heat, and again, with those potatoes, the starch will sort of thicken that sauce quite a lot more than what you'd expect from perhaps a green curry, a Thai green curry, or something like that. And also the nuts in that paste will thicken that quicker. You want a slightly thicker sauce. Allow it to stick, but don't forget to scrape off the bottom every sort of 5-10 minutes to make sure that it's got this lovely flavour, but it's not burning at the base. You can see the colours from there, from the carrots and different veg already starting to build. We're going to start to season this up and then add my last veg, which are my sugar snap peas. I'm going to go for a couple of tablespoons of fish sauce first, and we'll give that a stir through and taste that for saltiness. Good flavour from that fish sauce. I've got these sort of almost cubes or rectangles of palm sugar here. I'm going to pop one of those in and let that melt through. Once that's fully melted in, then we'll taste it again. If it needs more palm sugar, add a little bit more. Just before I taste that again and add my sugar snaps, you can actually see, I think, if I bring this a little closer, the droplets of oil on that curry, and that tells me that the intense flavour is there and it's built up nicely. You know, that droplet of oil sitting on the top. I'm going to add my sugar snaps into there. They don't take long at all. Sort of 2-3 minutes to cook up. Keep them nice and crunchy. Give that a good stir through before you taste it. And you can see the sauce is really thickening up now, and the potatoes are starting to peek through. That is just the right amount of sweetness to me. I don't want it too sweet. I don't like my curry sweet at all. But the sweetness is there for the balance, but that kick of the chilli, whoa, that chilli is really there. So let that boil away, 2-3 minutes, and your curry is pretty much done. Time to serve up and taste, guys. And you look at the colours, especially from just popping those sugar snap peas in last. Keeps them nice and bright and crunchy. Again, the chicken on the bone and those chunky bits of potato make a real difference to this. Scatter my freshly chiffonaded lime leaves over the top. Guys, here is my Thai Penang curry. I can't wait to dig in. Gosh, that is so good. The chili really kicks in straight away almost. Great on the bone because it keeps it nice and succulent. And then you get that fresh lime leaf over the top. And when I bite into that carrot later on, with a bit of steamed rice or coconut rice, absolutely fantastic. Guys, Thai cooking, Chinese cooking, Vietnamese, any sort of Southeast Asian cooking and Asian cuisine. If you want to learn more, don't forget to subscribe to our School of Wok channel, like all of our social media, and tell all your friends.